The frontal lobes of our brain are located, not surprisingly, in the front of the head. They're very vulnerable to injury by trauma. In a car accident, the lobes can slam against the skull and be bruised, or can be injured by the rough skull bone beneath them. The white matter of the brain, consisting of long cells called axons, act like telephone wires connecting different parts of the brain. If the connections in the frontal lobes are torn, injury occurs. Insurance companies will sometimes say, "He's walking and talking, so he's fine." That's not right. The person can be severely impaired in many ways. The first person to be medically followed after a frontal lobe injury was a railroad worker named Phineas Gage. In 1848, a horrible explosion actually drove a metal bar through his head. Amazingly, he walked out of the tunnel and rode a wagon to the doctor's office. And after doing so, his friends and family noticed that he wasn't Phineas Gage anymore. Prior to that, he was a kind man, quiet, a model citizen. After the injury, he cursed, he drank, he was unorganized. And as his doctor stated, the balance between his intellectual and animal propensities had been destroyed. I often get to ask the spouses of my brain-injured clients to describe the changes that they've seen since the accident. Sadly, the most common description I hear is, "That's not the same person that I married." How horrible. How does this happen? The frontal lobes of the brain make us more human and less animal. The area dictates and does all of the high-level thinking, decision-making, and does all the things such as planning ahead, organization, short-term memory, and multitasking. It takes care of all the complex social interactions that we go through every day. And when these are adversely affected, it is tragic. The other terrible consequence of frontal lobe injury is something called disinhibition. This means that the filter for our speech and actions has been damaged. When a healthy frontal lobe is present, we don't say everything that we think. But imagine if you did. Insults, highly inappropriate comments, and actions can cause workplace and social problems like you can't imagine. People with frontal lobe injuries have a difficult time holding down jobs and even holding down marriages and making friends. Unfortunately, these victims then retreat from the world and become loners as the world becomes too confusing. We also see increases in violence, criminal behavior, addiction, and psychiatric problems with frontal lobe damage. This helps us understand why death row is full of brain-injured people and why 70% of the homeless people in America have had a history of brain injury. This is why frontal lobe injury has been called the amputation of the soul. These are the reasons why we work so hard to show the subtle but devastating effects of frontal lobe injury in our clients, and will continue to do so.